Hello, people. This is another in our series of Success in Cardiology, where we particularly want to highlight and spotlight women who have been really successful in cardiology, and especially those who did it perhaps at a time when there were very few role models to follow. So these are independent-minded people. And today I have definitely one such person, Dr. Barbara Casadei, who recently left her position as professor at the University of Oxford. She is British Heart Foundation Professor of Cardiovascular Medicine and has just taken up a post as head of the National Heart and Lung Institute at the Imperial University in London. Particularly of note, she is a firm advocate for women, and she was the first woman president of the European Cardiac Society and one of the founders of Women in Cardiology at the ESC. Her name is Barbara Casadei, and I'm delighted to have her with me. So,
Thank you very much, Deborah.
Professor Casadei, let me start by asking you that, as one of the earlier women in cardiology to be really successful, did you face a lot of opposition or, people telling you, no, this isn't possible, no, that isn't possible? And if so, how did you deal with that?
No, I don't think I faced any open opposition at all, but I would say that most of my early career was very much under the radar, and it might be that people didn't see me coming. So in that respect, because I was foreign, I was also much more difficult to classify in some respect. I mean, this is very pertinent to the British system. And so I was exotic, and as such, you don't really quite know how to deal with people like me, or indeed think that they might pose a competition in the future. So I did not face opposition, but I did witness a lot of paternalism, and that is definitely, again, very typical, I would say, of the British system. Is not necessarily, the definition of paternalism is that people mean well in some respect, but that can be very debilitating in terms of aspiration, or what kind of hope one could have for one's career. The paternalistic attitude is that one should aim, medium low, and have more time for family if you're a woman, and not really engage in the big things that matter in a department like finances. If you want a citizenship job, you will probably be asked to do some pastoral duties.
Okay. So when you were starting off on your career, did you have a very clear idea of where you were going and how things would turn up? Do you have a kind of a vision for the future that you were aiming towards, or did things just kind of develop as they went along?
Yeah, I'm afraid I didn't have a clue. I mean, it was all, I was all trying to find my a way, of who I could be in the future. That's why I always say that it is really difficult to be young, because you don't have clarity on this. It takes time to know yourself, and therefore the direction that would suit your way of thinking and your way of working. So no, I wanted to do maths, and I was then told that that would only leave me with the opportunity to teach math, maybe at high school. And I didn't want to do that. And so they said, well, maybe you can do medicine because it opens so many ways, so many careers. So I was certainly not one of those people that from the age of 6 wants to be a doctor, a physician. Definitely not. And when I then studied medicine, I very early on understood that I didn't want to be someone who worked with, in a NHS or National Health Service position full time. That I needed to do something else. And so I have tried to build a career where I could have some clinical work and also research. And most of the time, you have to create the post that allows you to do that. That is very difficult to slot in a position that, particularly in Oxford, where I was, that has these characteristics. So, we are very much dependent on funders that have, particularly for me, the British Heart Foundation, that provided those career opportunities through fellowships and then senior fellowship and then a BHF chair that allowed me that freedom. So, it is, one has to take some risk in order to be able to have a personalized career.
So do you think that's one of the kind of personal attributes that you have that enabled you to be so successful, that you're a risk taker?
Well, I take calculated risks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not reckless. I'm not impulsive, particularly. But yes, I would throw myself into things and see what I can do with them, of the opportunities that I can see. And, that is one of the advanced definition of luck, right? To be ready for those opportunities that come and be prepared for them.
And to be prepared to step outside of your comfort zone. So what you're saying when you take calculated risks, that a lot of women in particular, it has been shown, require themselves to be fully prepared and completely qualified before they will put themselves forward for a particular position, whereas men often will just go for it. So, would that be one of the advice pieces that you would give to people, that if you think you might be able to do it, and particularly, I think if you think you would like to do it, then you should put yourself forward?
Well, it is not that women as a whole are risk-averse categories. It is all the environment around them that, to some extent seems to always suggest that you're not ready, or that maybe that there is someone better than you. And if you believe that kind of propaganda, as I call it, then you really are in trouble. People don't, as I keep saying that, they don't necessarily say that with a bad intention, but women do things slightly differently, and that is not often recognized. And so if you want a safe pair of hands that most institutions seem to want, they very rarely would go for a woman. And so, you need to change also the perception that one can be a leader by having characteristics that are not those of conventional male leaders. That's the problem.
Yes, very, very important. I think that's a really important point. I have seen a lot of women who feel that in order to be successful, they need almost to pretend to be men, to dress like men and to act like men. And really women have actually got something else to bring to the table that is, equally, if not more valuable. And if not more valuable, then certainly more needed, because it's missing.
It's a survival strategy. Again, I really don't blame women for any of this. because sometimes I can see around me. I mean, I am not very good at camouflaging, but people who can do that, it works. And so if someone wants to have a career and is ambitious in the good sense and all of that, I suppose the one tries to do whatever works. I think then the cost of doing that comes later, but in the short term, it seems to be a good strategy. And so that's why some women do that. They acquire the prevailing leadership behavior in order to be accepted. But you shouldn't have these problems, right?
We shouldn't. And I think one of the things that's really important about this series of interviews is that it's really showing that people can be feminine and successful and have families. So I know you have a daughter who's now grown up, but you had it whilst you were practicing. I would love for you to tell me your very interesting views on things like maternity leave.
Well, yeah. I had my daughter, and I'm not certainly someone here that they would say the young people, it's easy, you can have it all, and all of that. It's not true. I mean, the moment that I had my daughter, at the beginning when she was small, it was difficult to try to essentially reconcile the responsibilities that I felt towards her and love and everything else and my family, and the fact that an uncertain career. So I call that the terrible 30s because one doesn't have, usually a tenure. If you are in a leading university, it's unlikely. And in my generation, it was even more unlikely than it is now, where people have started to think about the impact of all this uncertainty. So you are a bit hand to mouth on the career side, and all of a sudden you have also this responsibility. So I have myself, struggled. I have a period of, maybe of 5 to 10 years where I don't remember a song, a movie, or anything. That all I've done has been working and trying to make all of this work. And I think a lot of women would feel the same at that time. So I'm not saying that is a walk in the park. What I'm saying is that maternity leave is, at least in Europe or in the UK, something that people can take even for a very reasonably long time. And because it's available, I always say it doesn't mean that you have to take it to the end, simply because it can cut you off from what is your professional persona. And so, I've always tried to help women to maybe come in whilst they were on maternity leave once a week or once a fortnight, to follow, for instance, their project, so that they had something to come back to. There was an incentive, and and of course we pay. That comes with some extra money to pay for childcare for that particular time. And I always recommend that women in that situation with small children, should, as much as possible, seek flexibility rather than part-time, so that they get paid properly, and they maintain, a career structure, whilst having, though, time for their family and together, as I said, with their husbands, because that's also, or partners, that's also very important. I have a very strong opinion that paternity leave is essential. To create that initial bond between both parents and the child. Without that, what happens is that usually women tend to take over and not even trust their partners with the child, because they feel like they know they are the only one who know what to do, and then they end up resenting it. I have been in that situation, and it would not have happened if there have been a better provision for paternity leave, and almost which, as it happens in the Nordic countries, I would have it. The people should take it compulsory, in a compulsory fashion. Should make
compulsory paternity leave. Yes, you've been known to say that, and I think one of your ideas on that front is that it would help to more rapidly change the culture of
yes.
Everyone believing that childcare is entirely the
Yes.
woman's.
Yeah, it changes everything. I mean, even then the subsequent relationship between the parents and the child, so that it becomes much more natural for the father to be hands-on and therefore be part of a partnerships. A partnership between the wife or the partner and the child. Together, do it together. And I think that is very important and works very well in Scandinavian country. One could look at the example, is not at all, particularly pioneering anymore. So one should just do it. And, and also it's good to have, some have a pool of leave, which is then equally managed by husband and wives, so that by the parents, so that they can then both do a little bit of part-time or flexible time at the same time that they are looking after their child at that initial period. So I really am all in favor of that.
Super. So you were saying that, for a period of 5 to 10 years, which is a long time, there was no me time, basically, is what you're saying. And I agree with that. There was no me time. But if you're talking to an early career cardiologist or someone considering going into the field, a female who, is being told you can't be a cardiologist and a good mother, I think one of the things that worries me about that is that I think that, yes, it may be hard to do it and challenging. I think rather than hard, I choose the word challenging to do that, because for me, it would be even harder to have to get up in the morning and go and do a job that isn't the one that I really would love to do. So if if you're passionate about your job and you're passionate about, being a good mother, then, although you're very busy and there are challenges and you don't have much me time, really there is more satisfaction in your life. So, would you do things differently, even though you found those years difficult? Do you ever regret having done that?
No, I have absolutely no regrets, but I'm still kind of, every time I hear, the bad mother, it really annoys me. Why there isn't any preoccupation about one is or no, or it's not a bad father because they work. Why does he have to be the mother? Why these stereotypes all the time? I mean, that is what really gets me. to say, just even hearing it, I can feel like that kind of.
I'm with you. With you. And I think that what I would like people to pick up on as well is that, not only is it possible, even though it's challenging, but actually you can also be a very good mother. Sometimes if you give up your career and you go home and you spend all your time with the children, or if you do a less demanding career and spend a lot of your time with the children, you're not actually setting the best example for the children. And you may actually resent them for having kind of held you back from something that you would have liked to do. So, it could well be that you'll be a much better mother if you are also following the career of your dreams. So that would.
Well, I would even say that whatever one, if one chooses a profession that could be, I mean, the cardiology or medicine are not the only demanding careers that a woman can have. Is someone, chooses a career, that is demanding, has got nothing to do with being a good or a bad mother. There are other parameters that make one a good or less good parents, but I don't think, that working and providing a certain level of also wealth to the family, opportunities to the kids, all of these kind of things. I don't think they got anything to do with being a good or a bad parent. It's just something else. It's how you manage your time, is how you make quality time, and all of these kind of things. But it's I don't think. I think these are a common theme, whether one works or not.
Mm-hmm. So I also know that you have some very interesting views on mentorship. So one of the reasons for these podcasts is also to show people that there really are role models that you can look up to of successful women. But did you have a particular role model or a particular mentor that helped you? And I'm assuming that they were probably male, but what features of a mentor or a role model were most useful to you?
I don't think I actually had a mentor, but I have had friendships at the workplace that have helped me, even professionally in terms of exchanging ideas. There are, one could talk endlessly about what mentorship mean. To me, it means a discussion that makes you think, right? Not someone who is that tells you what to do. So for me, sometimes you can have someone that tells you what to do, and only to then crystallize your idea that actually you really want to go in a different direction, just by having that discussion. So, I mean, myself, if I support or sponsor people, I like to support and sponsor people that I know, so that this can be taking into consideration the person that I have in front of me. But I have also done so-called speed mentoring when I was at the European Society of Cardiology. And there is really a practical advice on one question, because you only have 10 minutes or something like that. And that can also be useful, for people who have a specific set of practical questions that they want to hear a few answers, and that can be useful. But in general, I always advise against asking around too much. That the answer to what one wants to do is within oneself. So one can discuss, one can hopefully take that discussion as an incentive to go deeper in one's journey of self-awareness. But that's about it. To actually follow a recipe is something that would never work for women or for minorities, because it is the recipe of the prevailing leadership. And so it just not suited to women.
Mm-hmm. So here's a tricky question. Is there anything that you wish that you had done differently in your career or in your life?
Yes, I think not a lot. One thing though, I think that it took me too long to understand really what I wanted. And as a result, I think that in my younger years, I have not been as assertive as I should have been. I've been maybe accepting too much, accepting my place in the pecking order, for instance, that kind of, that kind of auto-convincing yourself that maybe that person is in a different position in the kind of pecking order because he's better than you are. And then you see that person changing. And so you think, hold on, this hasn't really been a success, has it? So that is certainly something that I wish I would have perceived differently. But apart from that, I think probably, the other thing that is something that I can still do, and that is not a good thing, is always kind of expecting people to understand what the expectations of a job, of a position are, without maybe spending enough time to say, look, these are the expectations. I am always very reluctant to tell people what to do. And in this case, perhaps I should be clearer, so that's something that I probably should do differently.
So if got in front of you now a group of women considering going into cardiology, what would be the main piece of advice you would want to give to them?
I would say that the openings that they see are still relatively superficial, and that deep down they still have to expect that they will have to be trailblazers. So, really carve a new path for themselves and the people that come after them. And that is always more difficult than climbing a wall that has got the nails in and the ropes in place. So there is still that. That doesn't mean, I like a challenge, and a lot of women like a challenge as well. And so, it can happen now. As I said, there is much more of an opening than there used to be. And I think it is important that women engage, because there is such a thing as the tipping point. We're still about 19% female cardiologists in the UK. I think that if that percentage went up to 40%, then there would be, let's say, as a number, then there would really be an impact on the culture of the workplace. And there wouldn't be that so much pressure to assimilate and adapt and adopt the prevailing model as the right model. I have seen this when I was in the board of the European Society of Cardiology. You know, when I was elected, I stimulated other women to go for election and also co-opted women to committees. And that changed very much the atmosphere of the board, the type of discussions and the behavior. So I think that we're still not there yet, particularly in the UK, but also in the US. But when it happens, you can feel the difference.
So if you could just wave a magic wand and have one thing change, because you're suggesting that, you know, we need more people so that we can change things. So if there was one thing that you could just wave a magic wand and it would change, what would that be?
It's a difficult question. It's a difficult question because you know, I mean, a lot of my colleagues just say, you know, we just have to wait that the old generation retires. Accelerate that point with a magic wand might help,
Well,
but
it might, but it might not, might it? Because the
it may
cost
not. No, I know, I know.
and you know,
Yeah.
we start off, I think, with a very diverse group of people who go into medicine, and we through their training, even as medical students, but certainly junior doctors, kind of turn them into a well-molded representation of what everyone expects a doctor to be. So,
I think the new generations are different. I mean, the new male cardiologists are different from the old one. There is much more sharing of responsibility. With their partners, the relationship that they have with the cardiologists of the opposite sex is different. So I do see a difference. Sometimes I toy with the idea of having a bit of positive discrimination for women, and because I don't believe, because the default answer to that is, oh no, we are a meritocratic group of people, but that it goes very much on the definition of meritocracy, you know, that needs to be calibrated on the type of opportunities that one has. So the meritocracy is the opportunities that you had and what you've done with them. If you had less opportunity, then you know, you have to look at the results in view of that, and that is true for minorities as well as women. And there are some very interesting data that suggest that people who say that they would preferentially employ women get much better female women candidates, because the women feel that they go in with a chance, rather than being the women in the shortlist that make everybody feel better, even though they have already decided that they would appoint a male. So, that is what you know,
I think you have said, you know, with regards to positive discrimination, that you know, it is said that, well, you know, exceptional women will make it to the top, but unexceptional men also make it to the top. So in order to balance the playing field, you know, we really do need a little bit of positive discrimination to get these same qualified women to be in the same leadership roles. In particular, I think, you know, leadership perhaps more than in the workplace.
No, absolutely. I mean, I will certainly second that. Very, very important point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. And I know you're a very busy person, as all successful people are. So we should call that a day. But thank you so much for your time and for your wonderful insight, and for sharing all this with us.
Thank you.